Hi guys, welcome to Facts Every Dallas Cowboys Fan Should Know Part 2. So let's get started. So the Cowboys were formed in 1960 as the first expansion team, and they missed the draft, which had occurred shortly before they were formed. So they were forced to play their first season without the benefits of having a college draft. So a lot of their players were not up to par, and they didn't win a single game their first season. They went 0-11-1. Their tied game was against the New York Giants. So the Giants sucked back then too. The first player the Dallas Cowboys ever drafted was defensive tackle Bob Lilly out of TCU in the first round of the 1961 NFL Draft, and he was the second overall pick. Before becoming the Cowboys head coach in 1960, Tom Landry had been the defensive coordinator of the New York Giants. The offensive coordinator for the Giants during this time was another equally successful NFL head coach, Vince Lombardi. While serving as the defensive coordinator of the Giants, Tom Landry invented the concept of the 4-3 defense and would deploy it very successfully years later after taking his innovation to Dallas. And then when he went into Dallas, he modified the 4-3 defense to create the flex defense in response to Vince Lombardi's Packers sweep, which they had worked together, so they were familiar with each other, and Landry was really concerned about the Packers sweep and having to face them, so he invented the flex defense in response to what he anticipated the Packers were going to do against the Cowboys. In 1966, the Cowboys general manager jumped at the opportunity to play Thanksgiving Day games, and ever since then, the Cowboys have only missed 2 Thanksgivings. They've played every other Thanksgiving along with the Lions. And then people started to complain that they were tired of seeing the Lions and the Cowboys play every Thanksgiving, so the NFL added a third night game, which is 2 different teams every year. Tom Landry was so undecided regarding who the starting quarterback should be that in 1971, in a game against the Chicago Bears, Roger Staubach and Craig Morton had to rotate who would play every play. So they were going back and forth between the two, and then he eventually decided on Roger Staubach being the starting quarterback. And Staubach kept saying, if you're not going to start me, you might as well just trade me. And Landry was like, nope, not going to do that. We're just going to keep you here until I figure out what I want to do. And then they made him the starter, so he was happy. Super Bowl V, the Cowboys lost to the Colts on a field goal, and this was the first time that there had ever been a game-winning field goal in the Super Bowl history. So it sucks because it went against the Cowboys, but it was still a record at the time. And then they lost that Super Bowl, but for the first time ever and only time in NFL history, the MVP was selected from the losing team, the Cowboys. So Chuck Howley became the first and only MVP, Super Bowl MVP to come from the losing team, and he was the first defensive player to ever be selected as MVP. So that's pretty cool. Still, no one has ever been selected from the losing team other than that one time. So in 1975, the Cowboys had one of the best draft classes in the entire NFL history. They drafted 12 players who would become known as the Dirty Dozen, who would lead them into a Super Bowl that they were not prepared for, but they got their asses kicked. But it's still today known as one of the best college draft classes ever. In 1967, the Cowboys played the Green Bay Packers in the championship game, which became known as the Ice Bowl because it was the coldest game still in NFL history. And so the Cowboys were super unprepared for this game. That morning, Tex Schramm spent all morning calling every kind of hardware store, sporting goods store, everything, trying to see if they would open up and sell the Cowboys all the gloves they had. And no one would open up because they were the Cowboys and they didn't want to help them out. And so the Cowboys resorted to putting their hands down their pants. So wide receiver Bob Hayes spent almost the entire game with his hands stuck down the front of his pants, and the Packers defenders quickly realized that when he approached the line of scrimmage with his hands in his pants, he wasn't going to be involved in that play. So the Packers started picking up on the Cowboys' lack of strategy, I guess, lack of gloves to keep them warm. And one fan actually died during that game because it was so cold. But Super Bowl X in 1976, the Cowboys became the first wildcard team to ever advance to the Super Bowl. But they weren't exactly ready. And then everyone is familiar with the term Hail Mary, the Hail Mary pass, but most people don't know where it came from. It came from a game the Cowboys played against the Minnesota Vikings. It was a divisional playoff matchup, and Roger Staubach, there was 24 seconds left on the clock, and Roger Staubach threw a 50-yard pass to Drew Pearson, who was in the end zone, and he magically caught the ball, and the Cowboys won the game. So they won in a 17-14 victory. So afterwards, Staubach was being interviewed, and they asked him, what did you think when you let go of the ball? And he said, I just threw the ball and said Hail Mary, and then he caught it. So anytime a ball is thrown in a last-ditch effort to score a touchdown with the seconds remaining in the game, it is called a Hail Mary, and that's where that originated. In Super Bowl XII in 1978, writers of the game voted to give the MVP award to the entire Dallas defense, but the NFL wouldn't allow it. So the writers settled for splitting it between Harvey Martin and Randy White. This is unprecedented in Super Bowl history, and it still has never happened. There's never been more than one MVP. So this time they won, but there was 2 MVPs. So they were the only team to have an MVP from the losing team, and then the only team to have 2 MVPs from their team. The first time the Cowboys ever had the first overall pick in the NFL draft was in 1989, and they used it to take eventual Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman out of UCLA. In the NFC Championship game at Candlestick Park, Troy Aikman outdueled counterpart Steve Young and the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, and the Cowboys cashed in their ticket to the first Super Bowl since the 70s with a 30-20 triumph. It was in this post-game locker room that Jimmy Johnson stood up on a chair and screamed his famous "How about them Cowboys" line, which is now famous today. I get messages and comments almost every day that says, "How about them Cowboys?" Most of you don't know where it comes from. So it comes from that NFC Championship game against the 49ers that led the Cowboys to Super Bowl 27 in 1993. Okay, so that was random facts about the Dallas Cowboys every Cowboys fan should know, but probably doesn't. Let me know if you guys knew those facts, if you didn't know them, which ones you found most interesting, if there's more facts I should know. Leave your comments below and let me know, and subscribe to my channel, okay? Oh yeah, and we play the Saints tomorrow. Well, today. I'm gonna release this tomorrow, so today. So go Cowboys, beat the Saints, woo!